She thought it was just a fake date for money, but the mysterious stranger turned out to be her future husband. "Cassie, we need next month's rent in 2 days or we're out," Jade whispered urgently, her voice echoing in the cramped hallway of their apartment building. Her fingers shook around a wrinkled eviction notice, its harsh, bold print revealing the precariousness of their situation. Cassie Martin pressed her forehead against the chipped wooden door of their unit, heart pounding. She'd known this was coming. Their finances had unraveled over the last few months. Jade had lost her job at the boutique, and Cassie's freelance graphic design gigs dried up. Now they were behind on rent. "I know," Cassie murmured, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I'll figure something out. I promise." She willed herself to sound convincing, even as her chest felt hollow. With Jade's unemployment checks barely covering groceries, and Cassie's overdue client payments nowhere in sight, the clock was ticking. Inside their tiny apartment, Cassie flopped onto a battered love seat, picking up her phone to scroll through job listings for the 100th time that day. She'd applied to everything from design gigs to dog walking. Nothing had panned out. "What if I asked Dad again?" Jade offered softly, rummaging through the fridge for something to eat. "He might float us alone." Cassie shook her head. "We've borrowed from your dad too many times. It's not fair, Jade. We're grown women. We have to figure this out ourselves." A tense silence followed. Jade shut the fridge, lips pressed into a thin line. "I guess we keep hustling." Suddenly, Jade's phone buzzed. She picked it up and frowned. "Huh, that's weird. My friend Erica just texted me something about a fake date service. Says she heard some women are making big money just for going out with clients. You know, dinner companions for events or something." Cassie sat up straighter. "A fake date service?" She tried to hide her skepticism. "Isn't that basically escorting?" Jade shrugged. "It depends on the platform. Some are more classy companionship than shady dealing. Anyway, Erica claims she knows a girl who made a few hundred in one night, just by attending a gala as a +1. Cassie's mind whirled. The idea sounded outrageous and borderline humiliating. But the rent deadline loomed, and desperation gnawed at her. She glanced at her laptop, open to an empty list of design job leads. "I don't know," she said slowly. "It feels questionable. But I guess it can't hurt to see what it's about, right?" That night, Cassie hunched over her laptop at their tiny kitchen table, Jade at her side. The flickering overhead bulb cast shadows on their anxious faces. Cassie typed "fake date for money" into a search bar, bracing for a slew of suspicious results. They found multiple websites offering event dates, social companions, or +1 services. Most boasted a veneer of legitimacy, strict boundaries, no explicit services, just dinner or event companionship for a negotiated rate. "We'll do careful research," Jade murmured, scanning one site's terms. "It looks like some clients are business people needing a partner for formal events. They pay by the hour or by the event." "Still feels weird," Cassie admitted, but her heart kicked up a notch when she saw the rates, $200 or $300 an hour in some cases. "This one's interesting," Jade said, pointing to a listing on a curated site called Graceful +1. "It claims background checks on both parties, an emphasis on respectful interactions. Maybe it's safer?" Cassie nodded, reading the fine print. The platform boasted strict guidelines, no physical involvement beyond casual touching if both parties consent, no illicit behavior, and an inbuilt chat system that masked personal phone numbers until an agreement was signed. She bit her lip. If it's as legit as it seems, maybe it's worth a try. Even one well-paid date could buy us more time. Jade squeezed her hand. "I'll support you, whatever you decide. But be careful." Inhaling shakily, Cassie clicked sign up. She spent half an hour filling out a profile, uploading a tasteful headshot, and specifying boundaries. She was willing to attend dinners, formal events, or casual outings. No overnight stays or questionable activities. She set a rate that felt both bold and a bit terrifying, $400 for a standard event. "What if no one hires me?" Cassie muttered, half hoping that would be the case. Jade huffed a laugh. "Then we'll keep trying. But you never know, someone might need a date soon." 2 days later, Cassie woke to a notification from Graceful +1. Her heart jumped. She opened the platform's chat to find a message from a user named N.Moore. N.Moore message, "Hello Cassandra. I'm seeking a companion for a formal reception this Saturday. If you're available, please let me know. Your profile suggests you enjoy charity galas, which is precisely what this event is. Payment is negotiable. Happy to meet your stated rate. I look forward to your response." Cassie's eyes widened. She scrolled through the man's partial profile. It was sparse, just an initial, N. Moore, stating he was a business consultant who needed a partner for a philanthropic function. No photos except a blurred silhouette. "Seems secretive," Jade commented over her shoulder. "But he's offering to match your rate." "That's big money, Cass." Cassie typed a cautious reply. "Hello, N. Moore. I'm available on Saturday. Could you provide more details on the event, dress code, venue, etc.? Also, please confirm the agreed rate." "Thank you." Within minutes, his response arrived. N. Moore, dress code is black tie. The reception is at the Redwood Hotel Ballroom, starting at 7 p.m. I'll arrange for a car to pick you up. Payment of $400 upon arrival, plus a bonus if everything goes smoothly. Let's say $600 total. Cassie's jaw dropped. $600 for one evening. That covers our rent shortfall. Jade smiled, though her eyes were tinged with concern. Just be safe, okay? Make sure you have your phone. Share your location with me. A swirl of nerves and relief flooded Cassie. She typed her acceptance, heart pounding. She would attend a fancy reception as a stranger's date. It sounded ridiculous, but she had to do something. Saturday arrived faster than Cassie expected. She borrowed a floor-length black gown from Jade's cousin, a garment that hugged her curves tastefully. Jade helped her do her hair in a sleek updo, leaving a few strands to frame her face. Cassie checked her reflection in the mirror, hardly recognizing the elegant woman in place of her usual t-shirt and jeans self. A sleek black sedan arrived at 6:30 p.m. sharp. The driver, a polite older gentleman, opened the door for her. Cassie swallowed her anxiety as she slid onto plush leather seats. Jade waved goodbye from the sidewalk, phone in hand, ready to track Cassie's location if needed. The Redwood Hotel glowed with bright lights. Guests in tuxedos and gowns swept through the entrance. Cassie's pulse hammered as she stepped out, grateful she had memorized a few phrases about philanthropic events. She was supposed to appear confident and at ease, a perfect +1. Inside the ornate lobby, a staff member directed her to a side corridor, where a small sign read, "More reservation." She spotted a tall figure waiting near a marble pillar. He wore a fitted black tux, his dark hair neatly styled, posture effortlessly poised. When he turned around, Cassie felt her breath catch. The man was strikingly handsome, strong jaw, penetrating gaze, and an air of quiet confidence. He offered a polite smile that reached his amber brown eyes. "You must be Cassandra," he said, voice low but clear amid the lobby's chatter. She forced herself to move forward. "Yes, but please call me Cassie." He nodded. "Cassie, I'm Nicholas Moore, Nick, if you'd like. Thank you for agreeing to this arrangement." "It's no problem," she managed, taking in the subtle lines on his face that suggested stress or fatigue. He seemed older than her by a few years, maybe early 30s. "Let's talk terms," he murmured, extending a white envelope. "Here's your base fee. Once we make our exit, I'll add the bonus." Cassie's cheeks warmed. The transaction felt bizarrely cold. She tucked the envelope into her clutch, nodding. "Understood. So any particular role you want me to play tonight?" He hesitated, scanning the crowd. "Just stay close. Be pleasant. If anyone asks, you're my friend from college, helping me out for the gala." She arched a brow. "We didn't go to college together, though." He gave a brief grin. "Of course not. It's just a cover story. No one needs to know I hired a date." Cassie's heart fluttered with an odd mix of nerves and curiosity. Why the secrecy? Was he so worried about appearances? She nodded, and they headed into the ballroom. The Redwoods ballroom was a dazzling sight. Crystal chandeliers, polished floors, waiters circulating with silver trays of champagne. Cassie noticed a banner that read, "Lionheart Foundation Charity Auction, Fighting Hunger, one meal at a time." Nick guided her gently by the arm, his touch light but protective. "Let's get a drink," he suggested, steering them toward the bar. As they waited, Cassie found her confidence rising. She was used to social events in college, though nothing so highbrow. She could mingle if needed. "How's your evening so far?" she asked Nick softly, testing the waters of small talk. He exhaled, tension in his eyes. "It's necessary. My father's on the board of this foundation, and missing it would raise questions. Honestly, these events can be draining." She spotted a flicker of something, maybe sadness. She wondered if there was more to this arrangement than mere appearances. Before she could delve deeper, a middle-aged man in a crisp suit approached, smiling broadly. "Nicholas, good to see you," he said, clapping Nick's shoulder. "And who is this lovely lady?" Nick introduced her as Cassie, a dear friend from college, exactly as rehearsed. She smiled politely and shook the man's hand. The older man's gaze flicked between them with friendly curiosity. "It's about time you brought someone, Nicholas," he teased. "You've been solo at these events for far too long." Nick's jaw tensed slightly, but he forced a grin. "Yes, well, Cassie's gracious enough to accompany me tonight." Cassie sensed an undercurrent. Nick's posture stiffened whenever someone referenced his personal life. She carefully played along, stepping in with light banter about volunteer initiatives or her memories of campus days with Nick, deflecting scrutiny. An hour into the event, Cassie felt the swirl of conversation relaxing. Nick introduced her to more people, always maintaining the facade. She caught glimpses of gratitude in his eyes, like he appreciated her smoothing out the social friction. However, under the glimmering chandeliers, Cassie couldn't shake the question, why did he specifically need her here? She doubted it was just about not appearing alone. There was something deeper, an unspoken tension. As they wandered past silent auction tables, Nick's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression darkening. Cassie saw the caller ID flash father. He silenced the phone, exhaling sharply. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. He attempted a smile. "Yes, just family stuff." He offered no further details, but Cassie sensed a storm brewing behind those guarded eyes. Little did she know, she was already stepping into a world of secrets, where a single evening's fake date would spark events that changed her life forever. Thus ended the first chapter of their unexpected alliance, an alliance that started as a transaction, yet carried the seeds of fate. The following week, Cassie couldn't shake the memory of the gala. She'd earned her $600, paid their rent, and avoided eviction. Barely. Jade was relieved, but Cassie felt conflicted. Should she do more fake date gigs? That single event had bought them time. Yet something about Nicholas Moore lingered in her thoughts. On a chilly Wednesday morning, as Cassie hunched over her laptop applying for more freelance design gigs, a new message appeared on Graceful +1. "Cassie, thank you again for last Saturday. You were wonderful. I have a more extended proposition. Please let me know if we can meet for coffee to discuss." Her pulse kicked. Why was Nick contacting her again? She typed a quick reply. "I'm free this afternoon. There's a cafe on Elm and 7th, the Roasted Bean. Shall we meet at 2 p.m.? He confirmed within minutes. Cassie's curiosity soared. That afternoon she arrived at the Roasted Bean, a cozy spot with exposed brick walls and worn leather armchairs. Nick was already seated by the window, a black coffee in front of him. He looked less formal in a navy sweater and dark jeans, but still carried that air of quiet sophistication. He stood as she approached, offering a small smile. "Cassie, good to see you." She took a seat opposite him, warming her hands on a lat. "So you mentioned a proposition?" Nick nodded, gaze intent. "Yes. The gala was a success. Everyone believed our little story. I have another event next month. Actually, a series of events leading up to my family's annual holiday fundraiser. I'd like you to be my ongoing +1. Cassie's eyebrows shot up. "You want me to keep pretending to be your date? For multiple events?" He leaned forward. "Exactly. My father's been pushing me to settle down, or at least show that I'm in a stable relationship before I take on bigger roles in the family business. I would rather not let him control my personal life. But for the sake of peace, I need a consistent partner for these obligations." She studied him, heart hammering. Why not just date someone for real? A faint flush touched his cheeks. Look, my life is complicated. I don't have time or the desire to cultivate a genuine relationship under these circumstances. That's why the arrangement with you was perfect. No strings, no drama. You're easy to be around." Cassie felt a tug of conflicting emotions. She'd never imagined a second round of fake dating. Yet their synergy at the gala had been oddly natural. And the money, could she afford to turn it down? She cleared her throat. "All right. If I agree, what's the compensation?" Nick exhaled, relief briefly surfacing. "We can negotiate. I propose a monthly retainer, $3,000, plus any additional performance bonuses. In return, you attend certain functions as my girlfriend. Apologies if that sounds crass." $3,000 a month. Cassie's mind reeled. That was double what she usually made in a good month of freelance design. Enough to dig her and Jade out of debt. Yet moral questions gnawed at her. And we're strictly pretending, right? No real intimacy? He nodded firmly. Of course. I'm not paying for anything beyond a public facade. If we hold hands or share mild affection in public, it's purely for show. She forced a laugh, though nerves fluttered in her stomach. So basically I'd be your fake girlfriend. Are you sure this is the best way to handle your father? Nick's expression darkened. He's threatened to groom my cousin for the business if I don't appear settled. I can't let him manipulate me like that. This arrangement is a shield. Cassie fell silent, turning the offer over in her mind. She pictured Jade's relieved face when they could pay bills on time, maybe even set some aside for emergencies. All right, Nick, she said softly, meeting his gaze. I'll do it. On one condition: honesty. If your father demands something outrageous, you tell me. If you sense I'm uncomfortable, we talk. Deal? Calm. Nick's shoulders relaxed. Deal. They shook hands. In that moment, Cassie wondered if she was making a deal with the devil or forging a path to unexpected opportunity. As the weeks rolled by, Cassie found herself swept into a whirl of social engagements. Black-tie dinners, art gallery receptions, charity luncheons, each event brimming with influential guests. She and Nick honed their routine, a carefully orchestrated dance of light touches, shared smiles, and pleasant small talk that convinced onlookers of their blossoming relationship. Surprisingly, Cassie discovered she enjoyed these gatherings. She'd never had the chance to experience high society. People often approached them, praising their compatibility or remarking on how happy Nick seemed. Sometimes a pang of guilt flitted through Cassie. It was all a lie. Yet the more time she spent with Nick, the more she glimpsed layers beneath his polished exterior. He was considerate, ensuring she felt comfortable, explaining who's who in the crowd. He asked about her ambitions, listening attentively to her design ideas. One evening, after a posh rooftop party, they shared a late dinner in a little Italian restaurant Nick favored. Over plates of pasta and candlelight, Cassie found herself confessing her financial struggles, how close she'd come to homelessness. Nick listened quietly, swirling spaghetti on his fork. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I grew up privileged, though not always happily. My father's influence is stifling. Stifling how? Cassie asked, sipping water. He sighed, gaze distant. He's controlling. Every aspect of my life has always been curated by him. My education, my career path, even my personal relationships. Whenever I tried to date someone on my own terms, it got complicated. He'd meddle, or pressure me to end it if he thought she wasn't appropriate for the family brand. Cassie bit her lip. That sounds suffocating. But you're an adult. Can't you just ignore him? A humorless laugh escaped Nick. Ignore the man who holds the reins of more industries in the family trust that ensures my employees and extended family are cared for. It's not so simple. He has ways of backing me into corners. She reached across the table, placing a hand over his. I'm sorry. It must be tough. Their gazes locked. For a fleeting moment, Cassie felt heat rise to her cheeks. She realized she'd touched him without thinking, an intimate gesture outside their public performance. Thanks, he murmured, voice low. I guess that's why I'm so grateful for you. This arrangement isn't just business, it's a relief to have someone I can trust. Her heart gave a small jolt. She forced a light laugh, retrieving her hand. Well, I'm glad to help, partner. They finished their meal in companionable silence. On the taxi ride home, Cassie stared at the city lights, whipping by, grappling with the odd truth. Their fake bond felt real sometimes. She had to be careful not to blur the lines. Finally, the day arrived for Cassie to meet Nick's father in person. She'd gleaned bits about him, a formidable businessman with a reputation for arrogance. Nick insisted on prepping her for the encounter. Just stay calm, he said, as they pulled up to a private country club. He'll likely test you, see if you crack under pressure. Answer politely, but let me handle any tough questions. Cassie's nerves soared. She wore a modest navy sheath dress, heels clicking on the polished marble floor of the country club's lobby. They found Nick's father, Edward Moore, in a lounge area, a tall, gray-haired man with piercing eyes and an air of supreme confidence. Nicholas, Edward greeted coolly, standing to shake his son's hand. His gaze flicked to Cassie, lingering. So this is the young lady you've spoken of. Nick put a hand on Cassie's back. Father, meet Cassie Martin. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Moore," Cassie said, extending her hand. Edward's grip was firm, his expression inscrutable. "Cassie, lovely name. And what do you do?" Cassie explained she was a freelance graphic designer, carefully omitting the truth of how they met. Edward's brow furrowed slightly. "Interesting. Not exactly the typical background for a Moore partner, but we'll see." The comment stung, but she forced a polite smile. They sat at a small table overlooking the golf course, staff bringing iced tea and sandwiches. Edward launched into pointed questions about her upbringing, her family, her ambitions. Cassie navigated carefully, giving honest but diplomatic answers. Nick remained tense at her side, occasionally interjecting to deflect Edward's more intrusive queries. After about half an hour, Edward leaned back, steepling his fingers. "I'll be frank, Ms. Martin. Nicholas has a history of fleeting relationships. He's never introduced someone quite so different from our social circles. It begs the question, what do you really want from him?" A hush fell. Cassie felt her heartbeat thunder in her ears. She sensed the subtext, "Are you a gold digger?" She inhaled, summoning composure. "All I want is to see Nick happy," she said softly, turning to glance at Nick. "He's a good man, and we enjoy each other's company." Edward's gaze bore into her. "Is that so?" He shifted to Nick. "You'd better ensure this isn't just another passing fancy, Nicholas. The family can't afford instability. Our name is at stake." Nick clenched his jaw. "Father, Cassie is important to me. I'd appreciate your respect." Edward's lips pressed thin. "I suppose time will tell." With that he stood, signaling the conversation's end. Cassie exhaled shakily, relief and resentment mingling. Nick guided her away, murmuring apologies. "I'm sorry. That was worse than I expected." "It's fine," she lied. In truth, it stung to be dismissed like some questionable accessory. But she had to remember, this was a job, not her real relationship. Still, deep inside, Cassie yearned for acceptance. She couldn't deny a growing ache whenever she saw Nick's struggles. What if I want more than a facade? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. They left the country club with their arrangement intact, but the seeds of doubt planted by Edward Moore's cold interrogation threatened to crack the polished surface they'd worked so hard to maintain. Time flew. Cassie's life became a balancing act between genuine closeness and orchestrated performance. Nick texted her daily, sometimes about upcoming events, sometimes just to chat. She felt an unexpected warmth blossoming, like a real relationship forming beneath the pretense. One crisp autumn evening, Nick invited Cassie to a black tie fundraiser at the Grand Meridian Hotel. The night sparkled with possibility. A-listers, corporate titans, and philanthropic elites roamed the ornate ballroom. Cassie wore a silver gown that caught the light, feeling almost princess-like on Nick's arm. They mingled as usual, their synergy apparently seamless. Then, halfway through the event, Cassie noticed Nick looking pale. His hand on her waist trembled slightly. "You okay?" she whispered, concerned. He forced a tight smile. "Just feeling off. A headache, maybe." Before she could probe further, Edward Moore appeared, flanked by a group of colleagues. He gave Cassie a curt nod, then introduced Nick to an important investor. Nick tried to engage, but Cassie saw sweat beading on his temple. Suddenly, Nick's face went slack. He swayed. Cassie grabbed his arm. "Nick," she gasped as he nearly collapsed. Gasps rippled through the small crowd. Edward's eyes widened. "Nicholas?" Cassie and another guest eased Nick into a chair. A server rushed over with water. Nick's breath came in shallow bursts. "I'm fine," he muttered, wincing. "We're taking you home," Cassie declared, ignoring the onlookers. Edward frowned. "That might be best. I'll arrange a driver." "I have it covered," Cassie interrupted, surprising even herself with her assertiveness. She helped Nick stand, draping his arm around her shoulder. "Let's get you out of here." They left amid murmured concern from the partygoers, but Cassie cared only about Nick's well-being. A taxi whisked them to his penthouse. Once inside, Nick sank onto the couch, clutching his head. "This isn't just a headache," Cassie said, kneeling beside him. "What's going on?" He swallowed hard, eyes shut. "I have migraines, sometimes triggered by stress. Usually I can manage. Tonight, it hit harder." Tenderly, Cassie massaged his temples, ignoring her gown or the fancy veneer. "You should see a doctor. You can't keep pushing yourself like this." His hand found hers, gripping tight. "I'm sorry I worried you." He let out a shaky breath. "You've been so good to me." "I don't deserve it." Emotion tightened her chest. "Don't say that. Everyone deserves kindness." Nick opened his eyes, raw vulnerability shining there. This arrangement had started as business. But you've become someone I rely on. Maybe I'm crossing the line, but I can't deny how much I appreciate you. Cassie's heart thudded. She brushed back a strand of hair from his forehead. Nick, I care about you too. More than I probably should, given our fake situation. A flicker of relief and longing crossed his face. Slowly he sat up, leaning closer. I know we said no real emotions, but Cassie? In that charged moment, time seemed to slow. Cassie's pulse roared in her ears as Nick's gaze flicked to her lips. She closed her eyes, feeling his breath against her cheek. Then, gently, he kissed her, soft and tentative, as though testing if it was allowed. She kissed him back, tears pricking her eyes. The warmth of his closeness, the sincerity in his touch, felt far from stage. This was real. They parted, breath hitching. Nick pressed his forehead to hers. I'm sorry if this complicates things. It's okay, she whispered, her heart soaring and trembling in equal measure. Maybe we'll figure it out together. Cassie woke curled on Nick's couch, her fancy gown draped over a chair. They'd talked late into the night, about their hopes, regrets, and the possibility of something more than pretense. He'd insisted she stay after calling a doctor friend who confirmed it was a severe migraine. When Nick emerged from his bedroom, dressed in casual clothes, he offered her a tender smile. Coffee? Coffee? She blushed. Please. Over steaming mugs, the words hung unspoken. What are we now? They'd crossed an invisible line from business arrangement to genuine intimacy. Cassie felt both euphoria and fear. If my father finds out how serious I am about you, he'll meddle, Nick said grimly, sipping coffee. But maybe we can handle it. Her heart fluttered at the word serious. I don't want to hide forever. Nick nodded. Let's just be ourselves. If he tries to sabotage us, we'll face it. They agreed to keep outwardly calm but inwardly open their hearts. Little did they know a confrontation was already brewing. Weeks passed. Cassie and Nick fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Dinner dates, Netflix nights, text banter. Yet public events still required careful choreography. To outsiders, they were a polished couple fitting Edward Moore's expectations. One crisp afternoon, Cassie was in Nick's kitchen, fiddling with the coffee machine, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and stiffened, Edward Moore calling. She hadn't given him her number. Anxiety prickled her. She answered tentatively. Hello? Edward's steely voice came through. Miss Martin, I'd like you to meet me at my office. Alone. Cassie's stomach churned. Is something wrong? I have documents you'll want to see. Let's say it concerns your arrangement with my son. 2 p.m., Moore Industries Tower, top floor. Don't be late. The line went dead. Cassie's hands trembled. She told Nick, who insisted on coming, but Edward had demanded she come alone. Don't worry, Nick said, setting a protective hand on her arm. I'll be close by. Text me if you need help. At 1:59 p.m., Cassie stepped into Edward Moore's sleek corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the cityscape. Edward sat behind a gleaming desk, a slim folder resting before him. He motioned for her to sit. Miss Martin, I won't mince words. I'm aware of the service you used to meet Nicholas. I know you're paid to be his date. Cassie's heart plummeted. She forced herself not to panic. Edward flipped open the folder. Inside were printed screenshots from Graceful Plus One, her profile, Nick's requests, even their payment logs. You see, Ms. Martin, I employ investigators. It was easy enough to dig up this transaction. Cassie swallowed. What do you want? Edward stood, pacing to the window. I want you to end it, of course. You're not suitable for Nicholas. He needs a real relationship with a woman from our social standing. He turned, gaze cold. I'll pay you handsomely to leave. 10 times whatever he's paid you. Revulsion and anger flared in Cassie's chest. Your son is an adult, capable of choosing his own partner. Edward's voice hardened. He can choose, yes. But he's always been sentimental. He'll cling to this charade out of pride. If you truly care for him, you'll step aside. Spare him the embarrassment when this scandal goes public. Cassie's stomach twisted. A scandal could tarnish Nick's reputation, threaten his role in the family business. She weighed her love for him against the damage Edward could inflict. He deserves better than blackmail, she said softly. Edward's lip curled. You're hardly in a position to judge. You took money to be his girlfriend. Don't pretend it's pure devotion. My attorneys could bury you in legal nightmares for misrepresentation, extortion, who knows what. You'd lose everything. Tears burned Cassie's eyes. She realized he could twist the narrative. Nick's migraines, his vulnerability, this could destroy him. A suffocating silence fell. Edward watched her, waiting. Slowly, Cassie stood, heart pounding. I won't take your bribe, she whispered. But if leaving is what's best for Nick's future, I'll do it. Edward inclined his head. An icy smile. Wise choice. Make a clean break. And don't speak of this to Nicholas. If you do, I'll ensure the scandal erupts. Cassie gathered her coat and left, tears threatening to spill. She texted Nick a vague excuse, need some time alone. Sorry. And fled. For days, Cassie avoided Nick's calls. She felt shattered, but she couldn't let him become a casualty of his father's ruthlessness. Jade, alarmed, tried to console her. Cass, you love him. Doesn't he deserve the truth? Cassie shook her head, tears spilling. Edward has evidence that could ruin Nick's credibility. I can't be the cause. She typed a breakup message. Nick, I'm sorry. This arrangement has gone too far. I never meant to hurt you, but I can't do this anymore. I quit. Take care. Her phone buzzed with Nick's frantic calls, but she refused to answer. 2 days later, an envelope arrived, $30,000 from Edward Moore's attorney, the hush money. Cassie threw it in a drawer, untouched. She sobbed through nights, heartbroken yet resolute. One rainy afternoon, a pounding on her apartment door startled Cassie. She opened it to find Nick, drenched, eyes blazing with determination. Cassie, please, talk to me. He stepped inside, ignoring Jade's concerned stare. Why are you doing this? Did my father threaten you? She trembled, wanting to deny it but seeing the anguish in his eyes. He gently cupped her face. I know you. You wouldn't leave without reason. Tell me. Cassie's resolve crumbled. She led him to the couch, tears streaming as she confessed everything. Edward's threats, the hush money, her fear that a scandal could destroy him. Nick listened, jaw tight. I suspected he'd do something like this. God, Cassie, I'm so sorry you faced this alone. I couldn't bear hurting you, she sniffled, burying her face in his shoulder. I love you too much to ruin your life. Nick's breath hitched. You love me? She nodded, eyes glistening. Yes, but I'm scared. He wrapped her in his arms. I love you too, he whispered, voice raw. We'll face him together. I won't let him drive us apart. Jade, tears in her own eyes, slipped out to give them privacy. For a long moment they just held each other, the storm outside echoing the tempest of their emotions. The next day, Nick summoned Cassie to Moore Industries. There, they confronted Edward in his own office. Nick's eyes burned with conviction as he placed the hush money envelope on the desk. Father, you will not blackmail Cassie. I'm stepping up as a partner in the family business on my terms. If you want a scandal, fine, but know this. If you sabotage my life, I'll walk away from Moore Industries entirely. I won't be your puppet. Edward's face darkened. Nicholas, don't be reckless. No, Nick cut in. I love Cassie. We started as a paid arrangement. Yes, but I'd do it all again if it brought us together. She's not leaving. Either accept it or lose me. A tense silence. Edward's stare flicked between them, seeing Nick's unwavering stance and Cassie's steadfast support. Finally, he exhaled, shoulders sagging. You've backed me into a corner, son. Very well. If you insist on this relationship, I won't interfere. He shot Cassie a warning look. But any drama, and I'll revisit my options. Cassie held Nick's hand tighter. Understood. Reluctant acceptance shone in Edward's eyes. He realized he could no longer control them as easily. Over the following months, Cassie and Nick navigated the aftermath. There were whispers in society circles, mild gossip, but no catastrophic scandal. Edward maintained a frosty politeness, grudgingly watching as Nick became a respected figure in the company, his migraines less frequent with reduced stress. Cassie's freelance design career blossomed too, aided by Nick's business connections. She insisted on forging her own path, never wanting to rely solely on his wealth. 1 year after their first fake date, Nick invited Cassie back to the Redwood Hotel. He led her to the same ballroom where they'd initially pretended to be a couple. The lights were low, a single table set in the center with candles. He took her hands, heart in his eyes. We started here, in a strange game of make-believe. But our love is real. Cassie's eyes misted as he lowered to one knee, a small velvet box in hand. Cassandra Martin, will you marry me for real? No more pretending. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Yes, she whispered, laughter bubbling up. 1,000 times yes. They embraced under the soft glow, their hearts full of a truth no arrangement could imitate. The mysterious stranger who'd once been just a paycheck had become the love of her life, and she his. In that moment, they both realized that sometimes the wildest journeys begin with a single, unexpected step into the unknown. Thank you for reading She Thought It Was Just a Fake Date for Money, but the mysterious stranger turned out to be her future husband. We hope this story warmed your heart and reminded you that love can blossom in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this tale, we invite you to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with more captivating narratives filled with drama, hope, and beautiful twists of fate. Join Soul-Stirring Stories today and never miss another moving journey.